Hello and welcome back to my channel. As a lot of you or some of you may know, I actually took what I consider a long-term holiday off to Australia on a working holiday visa. I'm back in London now. And for those who are wondering how that experience went or would like to have a bit more insight on a backpacker's journey in Australia, in short, the best way I could describe it is 95% of it is shit. Or another coding or words, not the best. Since I've been back, I'd probably say that I'm probably one of the most patriotic people now of this country in terms of I absolutely love being British or love being from London. My main reasons for saying this is my experience in Australia. The way I see it is if you're not a complete or Australian citizen, and you're from any other country that isn't Australia, so that could be from the Philippines, from London, from America, whatever, you're treated bottom of the list, literally. Now, when I say bottom of the list, that means you won't get paid correctly when you start working. You may not get paid at all, even for working. You won't always get paid super. In my country, that's known as, I would say the best comparison is like pension. For them, it's like basically you can claim it after you're above a certain age, or if you fall badly ill or something, you can get. Anyways, it's basically what we call the closest comparison I can think to it is when you get old or extremely disabled, you've got some backup money that you can use to help you get by. So you won't get paid that correctly. Bearing in mind, I'm talking about my personal experience. Other people may have had an amazing time. I can confirm that there were moments that I did have an amazing time. I crossed paths with some amazing people, met some amazing souls and spirits, done things I would never do in London simply because you can't. For example, went on hikes. I'm from the city. I'm not from the country. You don't go on hikes in London. So I feel like in Australia you're closer to the sun or the stars there. So I experienced a lot of good weather and I got to see the stars, went night gazing with Bunny Zoo, have a drink whilst watching them with my friends. It was them kind of things you appreciate the finer things in life or the natural beauty of nature. Um Now, just little scenarios of as to how I became so patriotic for my country is, for example, there was a time when I had something called a hypo. So I suffer from diabetes. A hypo to me is when I have very low blood sugar and I can barely help myself. And my roomies at the time were basically trying to help me, and they called the ambulance. As soon as I recovered or I felt better, and I found out the ambulance were coming, I'm like to my friends, cancel the ambulance. No, don't tell them to come. Don't call them. My main reasons for saying this is because I was so broke. I know that I couldn't afford an ambulance. And for me personally, if you're sick or have something, that's a terrible way to live. Another time, I had an extremely bad toothache. It was killer. I tried to kill it off with painkillers. When I went from two painkillers a day to about 26 a day, and painkillers were no longer working, like I just thought, fudge, what am I gonna do? Because my mouth is killing me. Like I couldn't sleep. I could barely, I couldn't think properly because it was so painful. Literally, so it literally thought it was killing me, and it basically was because I was taking non-stop like painkillers, overdosing on them to try to ease the pain. And the main reason why is because I couldn't afford the dentist. It was too expensive. It involved me having to make a phone call to someone back home or asking, can you transfer me money so that I can get this sorted. Sadly, not everyone has that privilege to call people to help save them as and when they need help. I pay them back, but if I never had that friend or I wasn't able to pay them back, which involved me having to sell my car to make that money, then you're kind of screwed. Now, I want to point out the good things about Australia is the weather. Well, kind of the weather, because it did get a bit too hot there, but I'd much rather hot than I prefer cold. Like, it's too cold in England. Also, to summarize experiences, the majority of jobs that you get, that's if you're trying to extend your visa. For example, a lot of you may know, if you want to get a second year visa, you have to do what's called farm work or agricultural work. I didn't want to work with animals, so I mainly worked with fruits. I would say 9 times out of 10, the work that you do is backbreaking, literally. When I say literally, it generally involves bending over so many times within a day to pick the fruits. I was picking fruits whilst I was there. Or even you're on an hourly page, you're working in a packing shed, and that's deemed a good job because you're paid hourly. Even that hurt my back. Like everything hurts your back, involving 9 times out of 10. As of yet, I haven't come across a role that doesn't hurt your back that involves farm work. Um, I'd also like to add that generally when you do farm work, especially when it comes to picking fruits, um, besides it being back breaking, it is not worth it. So I guess it's worth it in terms of if you want to become a permanent citizen, but in terms of how much you're paid, I, as far as I'm aware, bearing in mind, I'm mainly speaking about my experience, you will be underpaid, guaranteed. You'll be put on something called piece rate. Piece rate basically means the more you pick, the more money you get. You get paid for how many you pick. You're not paid hourly or nothing. You're paid on how much you pick. And I think for some who, I don't know, have come from the city or are not used to being paid the equivalent of £3 something an hour, which as far as I'm aware, no standard Australian citizen can live on, it's detrimental. If you don't, and I'd say if you have a health condition, Australia recommends that you come with 5,000 Australian dollars roughly. I recommend if you have a health condition, you go with about 8,000, because when you do have a long-term health condition such as me, I've never had to pay for medication ever. I mean, I've paid for over-the-counter stuff, but in terms of when I go to see my doctor to get insulin for my health, I've never had to pay for that. And as far as I'm aware, the reason why is because the government sees it as, I didn't choose to have diabetes. I didn't choose to have this condition. And considering our country has something called a reciprocal health agreement with Australia, I don't think especially the country with a reciprocal health agreement, should have to pay it either, especially if you're on something called piece rate, because you can't afford it. It cost me $100 just to get insulin. And the way I see it is, if I didn't get that, I would have been left to dead. If my friend didn't send me the money for my toothache, I would have been left to suffer. If I had been hit by a gun, I would have been left to dead. Like, I don't think that's a way to live. And before I went there, I was so determined to be a part of the whole Australian thingy. I wanted to become a permanent citizen and all that. But after everything that I went through trying to be there, one, I've got a whole new love for our immigrants or foreigners in our countries. To me, that's the Romanians, the Polish, whatever. Because if they are underpaid the way that we are underpaid, and I mean the foreigners in Australia, salute to them. Like, well done, because I can confirm it is extremely hard. You get a lot of working hostels there, and I'd recommend you go to a working hostel. But the only thing with working hostels, they will only offer you work if you're staying in that hostel. So if they know of a job and they know they need someone, they're not going to offer it to you, even if they don't have the person in their hostel, because they want you to pay them rent first in order to get the job. On top of that, a lot of these working hostels, what they will do, and I get it because I was actually working in a working hostel. What a lot of them will do is they'll say they have work or that they need 5 people or 3 people. They'll get you into their hostel. They'll say that you can start on Monday. They have no work for you on Monday. They want you to pay at least 1 or 2 weeks worth of rent. They'll make you suffer. I wouldn't say suffer, but basically they will claim that there's work when there isn't work to try help them, which kind of makes sense, because for me, the way I see it, as whilst I was working there, farmers would be in touch with us and stuff saying that how they need so many workers or blah blah, and we couldn't, like, we can't give them the workers unless we know they're staying at our hostel. So it was kind of like a catch-22 situation. But yeah, if you basically, my whole experience, it was crazy. And as I said, to top it off, shit. Am I intending to go back? still questionable because my complete experience there has been such a put off, and I don't want people thinking that I just went in there for 5 minutes and just tried to experience it. I was there for a good 5 months, struggling my ass off, was actually homeless. Yeah. Then because what happened was, again, with that scenario with the hostels, I left from one hostel to another. I confirmed with the other hostel. I'm literally using the last of my money. I said, if you don't have work for me, please don't make me travel such a long way for nothing. What happened was, I got to the hostel. They actually found me work. I didn't realize, but basically, a lot of the employers, especially the ones that take immigrants, are what I consider heartless dickheads, in short. Reason why is because I got fired for being a diabetic. I had something called a hypo on my first shift, and I was fired within 3 hours. Now, for those who don't know about diabetes or a hypo, this basically meant that it's not my normal self. It got to a point where the farmer was asking me to do stuff I just completely couldn't comprehend because I was in a hypo. I started crying, so I got confused. I'm disorientated. I don't understand. Simply because your brain just stops working. I need sugar in my system in order to try to understand things. And despite the farmer being told that I'm diabetic, and he was like, no, I don't want to run. So and if that happened in this country, that would be illegal. I was also fired, and then I got given another job with the same hostel and got fired after 2 days. And for that, I don't even know why, but basically, I was accused of doing something that I didn't do. When I told them that I didn't do it, and I don't know who done it, I got fired. And it was like, are you kidding me? So the hostel was like, they're not able to find me any more work. They didn't determine that I was going to get fired and all that. So I basically have to leave the hostel because I wasn't able to keep up with the rent. I had no job to keep me going. I'm not even going to go into the details of my next move after that, but just to summarize, and it involved me. The plan was living out of my car until I could hopefully find a job. Luckily, I met some really nice people in the meantime that helped me get by. So I think, in short, for those who look at my photos or my videos and assume that I'm having the time of my life, don't get it twisted. Please don't get it twisted, because life is a lot harder as it appears. I'm not going to post my photos on Instagram or my videos on Instagram of my failures or the hard, tough crap that I'm going through. I'm going to post my happy times. I'm going to post what I consider good memories. I'm not trying to remember the crap moments in my life. So please don't underestimate just what people are going through whilst they're abroad, because you have no idea what their struggle is. And also, other advice, which I'm sure you've seen on memes all over places: be nice. Just be nice. You have no idea what someone is going through inside. Anyways, as I said, that's just my personal experience of being a backpacker in Australia. I describe it as shit. And I don't even use bad language. Yeah. Anyone who knows me knows I barely use bad language or profanity. But for me to say that, you got to know that I ain't lying. Anyways, if you have any questions, shoot one. Thanks for listening.